Howdy, everybody. On another edition of Near Workshops, I'm really excited to invite Rob. He is the CTO of Mailchain. They just actually recently integrated Near in the past, I believe, 2, 3 weeks. And if you don't know what Mailchain is, it is an all-in like one inbox for all your Web3 identities, all your Web3 wallets, where you can secure your own private keys. You can message wallets from different chains, different DIDs. And not only can you use it as an email, but it has an SDK for developers to integrate this within their own dApps as well. So I'm really excited to introduce Rob. And yeah, if you want to cover what the topic of today's workshop is and a little bit brief introduction, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Yeah, so Rob, one of the founders and CTO, and super excited to be speaking to you from the Near community. We built and released Near pretty recently, and we started to see some exciting kind of uptake in the community. And Mailchain itself kind of has two parts. We have the UI, which is kind of like a unified inbox where you can add different addresses and it's cross protocol. So you're able to you're able to add addresses on different protocols, currently Near and Ethereum. You're able to then message against different name systems. So so bob.near, ENS names over in Ethereum. You can message against the implicit addresses as well. So the addresses that Near keys are created against, even if they're not used as much. What we're going to go through in the workshop is we're going to really focus on the SDK and the code and what you can do as a developer. And then we'll sort of show you some of the basics, just sending and receiving, how we do that against Near accounts, how we authenticate with the SDK, which is really important. And then also we'll dive into a little bit more advanced use case of how you can respond to events on chain. And really, these are hopefully some of the building blocks that'll be useful for you when you want to start thinking about how you communicate, you talk to, notify, you inform, you to build a closer community with your users. So let's kind of just jump straight into it. What I'm going to do in this workshop, I'm going to basically do some live coding so you can follow along with what I'm doing. But also we have the workshop available. This is actually a new site, so we just released it early this morning. It has the Near workshop and you can follow it along at your own pace and your own time. So hopefully there's something for everyone. And if you're watching live, I'll keep the URL down here so you can check it out at any time. So let's just jump straight into it. Each of these modules are designed in such a way that yes, you can do the prerequisites and the setup, but you can independently do, skip, or in whatever order you like, part 1 through part 5. So the first thing that we need is a Mailchain account. That's super straightforward. Just head over to app.mailchain.com and land you on the register page. Give yourself a username. So Rob-workshop. Password, make sure you got a strong password in here. Something that you know, and so you want to make sure you save that. What I'm going to highlight here is just the advanced options. And this is where your secret recovery phrase is. So you can see it here. You can refresh it and hide it and refresh it a few times. That's generated securely on the front end. A couple of things to click and I'm human test. Now, what's going to happen is you'll go create an account. I've already got an account, so I'm actually not going to create a new one. Do suggest that you kind of pick your, use your preferred username and then put -workshop, something like that. So you can just use it for development rather than using your kind of main Mailchain account. Now, when you register, what will happen is it'll ask if you want to download the secret recovery file. Secret recovery phrase in a file. And this is the secret that you'll need to authenticate with Mailchain. So I suggest you do that, but if you don't do it, you can get access to it in the settings. So let me open up my account that I have here. If you didn't get the secret recovery phrase, you're able to see it here and you can view or download it. So the inbox, this will look like an inbox. It's very familiar to what you're used to with mail. But the exciting thing is that we can message Web3 identities. So let's kind of get into getting Mailchain set up. And you can start authenticating and then we eventually send first message. So first of all, I'm going to head over to get my terminal open and I'm going to make myself a directory for the workshop. So Mailchain different keyboard, that's fine. workshop, and I'm going to get over into there. So now that I'm in here, I'm going to open up my favorite IDE of choice. Visual Studio Code works pretty well for me, but you can use anything that you like. And once inside of here, we're just going to create ourselves an npm package that'll make. Oh, we're going to use a package.json. We're going to use the npm to do that. It'll mean it's a bit easier to manage the dependencies and anything else we need to install. So I just instead of I passed so npm init-yes to get all the defaults, and that's what it's gone and created for me. Also as well, this I think is important practice. I'm going to initialize myself a Git repository for tracking changes and also managing secrets and get ignores. We'll come to that in a little bit. So now we've got package.json. This seems a good time to install the SDK. We built the SDK, so it simplifies a lot of what you would need to do when communicating with the protocol. Pretty much every single request that we have requires that you sign or encrypt for sending and decrypt and verify when receiving. The SDK kind of manages that process and simplifies it for you, so you can get on with building what you want to build. The SDK is open source, so do encourage you to kind of take a look at the repository, dive inside, work through the code. I think there's lots of interesting things to learn there. So I'm gonna skip this. That's okay. We've got a really giant what's it called? Get ignore. So we've got a giant node modules folder which is not yet ignored. So I'm gonna download myself a get ignore. And I'm actually using the GitHub suggested, or one of the suggested node get ignore files. So this will go and fetch it for me. And when I actually press enter, it'll go fetch it for me. Inside get ignore, it'll include the node modules, but also, and I think more importantly here is for us, it includes the .env files. And we'll find that in a second. And this means that we won't accidentally import files that we don't intend to. So, cool. So let's kind of go down, and we need to pass in our secret recovery phrase into Mailchain, into your application. And secret recovery phrase is your private secret. It's something that you can't change, so you should treat it like you treat any other secret across different blockchain protocols. Now we're going to, because we're building things locally, we're going to use environment variables to get that secret into your application. There are multiple different ways of doing it, but for the moment we're going to use .env, which will take the contents of a .environment file and put everything into there. So let's go ahead and create a .env file. And this .env file then would contain the various different secrets that we need to. So if I go ahead and type secret recovery phrase, and this should equal your 24-word phrase. Can't spell mnemonics, I'm not going to attempt to. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not actually going to go and put it in this file so you can see that, because then I've compromised my secret. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a command that'll pop it inside of there for me. Now, I'm not going to open this .env file again because the secret is inside. So let's go ahead and take a look to see if this works. So I'm going to create myself a file. Let's call it send first message, or send first. Let's call it properly. Send first mail.js, and let's start writing our code. So first of all, we're going to import the Mailchain SDK. Mailchain require, and I've already installed it with npm, so I'm just going to go grab it like that. That's great. And then I'm also going to get .env. And this is important because we need to configure it before it will actually bring those secrets in. So I've got that sorted. So let's go ahead and read the secret recovery phrase from the environment variables. secret. So let's go here. Recovery phrase equals process dot env dot secret recovery phrase. Wonderful. And now we've got that. Let's go and instantiate the Mailchain SDK. So Mailchain equals Mailchain. And I'm going to use the method from secret recovery phrase. And I think it's going to be self-explanatory at this point, but it's going to take the secret recovery phrase and instantiate. So now that we've done that, let's go and get the user. We need to call a promise. So I'm going to create a main function here just to make calling promises a little bit easier. I'm going to remember to call it, so I'm going to put that immediately at the bottom. And yeah, let's go and get the user. Await Mailchain dot user, and just going to log it out as well, so we can make sure that that does work, and then we can see if it doesn't work. We can figure out any errors. So now that that's done, I'm just going to go and run that. Oops, send. That's mail. Great. Okay. So actually, what we've done, we have successfully authenticated with the file here, and you can see that this is my username, and I can pop over to the SDK, and you'll be able to see that as well. So to the UI, you see that as well. But let's press on, and let's kind of send the first message. There's always the hello world, if you like. So I'm going to stick in the same file because I'd already named it more or less like that. I don't need to have that log command anymore. And let's go and send the message. I want to make sure I check the response because I think that's going to be important. So mailchain.sendMail. So this is the function that you need to run. We'll just send it from ourselves. So from myself to myself. So I'm going to go user address. So from then, and we go from to. This is an array because you can send to multiple users. For the moment, I'm just going to send to myself. So from myself to myself, give myself an appropriate subject. Oh, mail sounds fine. Put a comma there, and we're going to set the content. And we actually have two different content fields: a HTML and a text field. The reason for that is we have built ourselves to be compatible with the various RFC email standards. So that chain, and I don't really want that to be like that, although it didn't matter. HTML, and I'm not a great web HTML email creator, so I'm going to put it inside a paragraph and keep it super, super simple. Cool. And that is what you would need to do to go and send a message. So let's just take a little look at this, the result of that. And let's run the code and see what we get. Cool. Okay, so what we got in the response is success. It tells us to take message ID and the delivery request. There's more information there if we want to go find out about it. So let's go head over to our UI to take a little look. And this is kind of what your user experience would be. This will refresh automatically, but just kind of speeding things up a little bit. And I can see my first mail that I had sent to myself. Because we use the SDK and we use the, it's an opinionated SDK, so it wraps everything together, you'll also see the message in the sent folder as well. So that kind of wraps up the absolute basics. But let's go ahead and get to something that's a little bit more relevant. Send in a message to a near address. So first of all, we need the near address. What we can do, we have a partnership with Shaddog. So if you don't already have a near name, you can head over to there and they will vend a name for you. And you're able to use that name for to register inside of Mailchain. So I already have one, so I'm going to use that one. But if you don't, it's your first time using near, that's a great thing to kind of get started with. So to register your address, your wallet, you just head over to here, and you select the wallet that you wish to connect. So I'm going to select my Near wallet and connect with that. I'm going to use this one here, and I've got a few accounts on here. I'm actually just going to pick the Mailchain-Alice account for this. Now this requires, so what the way that we register is we use a proof that's actually put on chain to know that this address that's Mailchain can message from your address. So only you are able to control what addresses you add to Mailchain and what addresses you don't add. So I'm going to add this into here. I'm going to approve that transaction. And it's a pretty low cost transaction there, but there is a cost nonetheless. So you'll need to have a little bit of near to complete it. I just went past that step, but you're able to customize and set some labels, and you can synchronize messages, and I'll also skip that as well. So once that's done, the thing that you'll probably immediately notice is Mailchain.Alice is here. So what we can do is we can send a message from the Alice address. So that's really, really easy. We're going to head over to here. I'm going to, let's keep this as it is. Actually, I'm going to rename this file. I'm going to call it index.js. That's fine for now. I'm going to change, I want to send it to a Near address. So I'm going to change this to be Mailchain-Alice.near, and it's at near.mailchain.com. And again, like for those of you that have kind of noticed, just calling it out, that's a fully qualified name that would be compatible with email as well. So that's a helpful feature that we have if we need to turn that on in the future. So let's my first Near mail sounds a bit better, a bit easier to distinguish. I'll make sure I save that file, and then I'm going to go and run it here. Ooh, what have I done? Not called that, so let's pretend that didn't happen. Index.js like this. And I'm going to go ahead and run this. So what's happened now is it's gone and looked up the address to find out the key for messaging. It's going to composed it, and it's gone and sent the mail on the protocol. To check the mail, we're just going to refresh ourselves here. Fantastic. We can see the mail. This time it was sent to alice-mailchain.near, and it's available for us. What's quite helpful here is we create different inboxes so that you can have a unified view, but with different views. So now that we've kind of got an idea about how that works, let's just do the opposite. Let's go and send from a Near address so that we can see that other side working. I'm going to connect actually a different wallet to do this so we can see what it looks like. I'm going to add my Mailchain.bob account. I'm going to click confirm everything, and I'll go through this step again that we've just seen. I'm going to click a little bit quicker this time because you've already seen it. That's great. So I'm going to skip here. Right, it gives me the Mailchain.bob label, so that's fine. I'm happy with that. And let's skip this step as well. So now you'll notice that we've got another mailbox. And something to call out here that I think is really important is there is some risk associated with adding multiple or linking different blockchain identities together, Web3 identities together. What I would say though, that doesn't exist inside of Mailchain. We don't see this linkage, only you do. So you are the only person that can understand that these mailboxes are contained inside the same these addresses contained inside the same mailbox. Everything is entered and encrypted on your client, and we don't have access to that information. So you're safe in the knowledge that you can safely communicate with users from a single account. So now that we've got that address in place, let's head back to our code. We're going to make just a very, very simple change. We're going to change the from address, and this time we're going to send it to send it from Bob near mailchain.com, and we'll complete the same action again. My first First mail from near address. Now, what I think is really powerful and important here is you're communicating, but you're communicating with guarantees. Because of the proofs that we have on chain, and you can inspect them yourself, I can know that when I sent a message to alice.mailchain.near, I know that only alice.mailchain.near can receive, decrypt, and read that message. When I send it from my Mailchain -bob.near address, I know that it came from that address. No one else could have impersonated that user, so I can trust the information that's come across. So yeah, now we've seen that exact flow. It works. You can send and receive messages from near. It's super simple. I think you'll spend more time if you look at how long the SDK code is. I think you'll most likely spend more time figuring out what to write in your message than actually the code to go sort of send the messages. I love to be. I'm curious to be proved wrong. Love to be proved wrong in some ways as well. So please do get in touch with us with the things that you find and experience on that. So let's kind of put something into context. This is really like a bit of a hello world, and you'll obviously figure out the use cases that make sense for you, whether that's notifications, summaries, roundups, just transactional type messages. But let's work on the next step, which is responding to events. One of the really exciting things that you can do in blockchains is listen to events and then respond to them. So in the final step of this workshop, we're going to respond to on-chain events. There's a few things that we need to do here to make this work. We need to install ngrok. So let me actually head over to the documentation so you can take a look at this. That is step 5. You'll need to go and install ngrok. Also make sure that you have an ngrok account. I will fix this bit inside the box the next time you see it. And once you have ngrok running, we can so once you've got ngrok installed, start ngrok, and I'm going to run it against port 3000, and that will, I think, it should become quite it'll become apparent why that is later on. Now, once this is running, you'll see a few important pieces of information. This is a web interface where you can go and take a look of what's going on with ngrok for debugging. That's pretty useful. And this is the forwarding address. So what ngrok does is it allows someone to connect to this address outside of your machine and then have it forwarded through ngrok to this port. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Pagoda, which allows us to listen to events on chain. And that's going to, when there's an event, send a HTTP request to a webhook that we're going to build. And the information in that request will be information about a transaction that we're listening to. So let's go ahead and set up what we need to. So we need to head over to Pagoda. And once we're in Pagoda, we need to, well, I don't have anything in here, so I'm going to create myself a blank project. I'm going to call it Mailchain-workshop. And the use case of what we're going to do here is actually, imagine it like watching for transactions. So I'm going to have a couple of events that I'm interested in, or addresses that, well, address I'm interested in. I want to receive notifications about that address. So what we need to do is we need to head over to the alerts tab. I'm going to do this on Testnet, so I don't need to use any near. I can do it nice and freely and easily. And I'm going to create myself a new alert, which is great. And I am, so I've got my testnet address that I'm interested in. I want the condition to be successful transaction, and I want the destination. I need to go set that up as well. So the destination, I'm going to alert a webhook, and the webhook URL. So this is where we need to go before. So I need to take the URL from ngrok. I'm going to paste it into here. I'm going to go /webhook received R-E-Z-I, yeah, I think that's the right spelling. Now, what this is going to do, so you can't put it at the root. I tried that earlier on and I got stuck with it. It needs to be at some sort of path. So go ahead and create that. And we've got a authorization of bearer token, and we're going to need to use that. And what this means is only ngrok or anyone with this bearer token is able to communicate with your webhook. So I'm going to finish this. I've got that created. So I now need to get myself a testnet address. So go over to wallet.near.testnet. And let me see what I've got inside of here. Yeah, so look. So I've got myself a brilliant Rob De Feo.testnet. That sounds a great address to use. So let me head back to Pagoda. Testnet. So now it's going to listen to any successful actions across this address. So I'm going to create the alert. That all looks good. And I've got my destination in place as well. So I have everything that I need here. So let's go over to the code and get everything created that we need to. So I'm going to reuse this this application. That is all fine. What I'm going to need to do is a couple of things though. So I'm going to keep ngrok running. Make sure you do want to do that. So I'm going to open up a new terminal window. Now I need to add the bearer token into the environment file. This is probably something you're not going to do it exactly this way, but I'm just going to remove the .m file because I need to open it to go do that. If I don't do that, you'll see my secret had in there before. So I'm going to create this, and we go bearer underscore token, and I need to just head over to here to go grab it. Okay. And that is the token. Wonderful. And I'm now just going to go and run that same command I had set up before that will add in my secret recovery phrase. So we've got them two files inside of there. I need to install a couple more things to make this work. We're going to create an Express application. And I do want to install them. What else do we need? We need Passport because we're going to use the Passport HTTP bearer package for this. And we need .n and Mailchain SDK. We've already installed them. That is all okay. So now that has done that, we need to create ourselves an Express application. So let's kind of bring in a few more packages that we need. So let's first of all Express and require Express. Cool. And what else we need? Passport as well. Passport. And we'll need the bearer strategy from Passport. Make sure I get this correct. Bearer G bearer and so on strategy. Great. So we've got .m, that's already been configured. So let's go ahead and create ourselves our Express application. Const app equals Express. And we're going to use, well, we're going to be working with some JSON. So let's go and use Express JSON. And we need a port to go kind of run on here. Now, note before we actually run ngrok on port 3000, so it doesn't really matter what port you use, but the port definitely needs to match what you have running on ngrok. So I'm going to create port 3000 and I'm going to listen to that port. And I'm just going to make sure that we know everything is running correctly. Cool. Okay, so we've got an application ready and listening, and we can just confirm that by running node index.js and listening. Cool. So I'm going to stop that. And let's now configure passport. So app.use passport.initialize. That will initialize passport. But what we need to do is we need to tell passport to use the bearer strategy. So new bearer strategy. So inside of here, what gets passed across is token and a done value. Let's create the function that will deal with this. If the token, so bearer strategy is actually super simple. All it does is there is a token that is known by both the client and the server. So we compare the two. Not so good. We'll turn it out. So return done and null true. And if not, turn done null false. Cool. So that is what we need to authenticate requests. And what we can do is, well, actually, we can test that. So why don't we go and run it? I know we can't test it because we haven't got an endpoint set up. Let's go set ourselves an endpoint. We've got our secret recovery phrase, got the Mailchain already there, but we need to create a endpoint. Otherwise, it is serving, but there's nowhere to communicate to. So we need to use the webhook received endpoint that we had before. IEVED. I'm actually going to just check I got the spelling correct here. Yeah, fine, great. Now we need to tell it to use the bearer strategy for this particular endpoint because it can be endpoint specific. I'm just going to set the session to false. That we don't want that, sorry. And now we've got that. This needs to be a synchronous function. And it's the two values that we have here, the request and response. And now let's go ahead and create the function for that. So at this stage, actually, we can now test the endpoint here. So we got left that in there. That's not ideal. Anyway, I'm going to comment that out for a second, and then we're going to now test it. So that's listening. Create this open here. I'm going to go curl local host 3000 / web hook received. And it's a post request, so we need to make sure we put that there. And you'll see that this will not work, but at least we'll know that it's working, let's say. So we got unauthorized, which is as we expect. So that is good news. I just need to move a few things out of the way so I can get back to this over here. There we go. So now we need to get our code in here so that we can listen, we can send the message. So what we do get, which is kind of pretty useful, is a payload that contains the information. So it's a JSON. What Pagoda sends us is a JSON object with information about the transaction. So that is contained in request.body. What I'm going to do is I'm going to format it just so it's a little bit easier and neater to read. And we'll kind of get that there. So JSON.stringify in the body. I'm going to actually just give it a bit of spacing so it makes it a little bit prettier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this code that we had before. We don't need the main function anymore. We don't need that. I'm going to reuse this because it's pretty useful for the moment. I'm going to pop it here and let's uncomment all of it. So what for this one I'm going to do, you can do anything really, but I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm just going to send it from myself to myself, because we can listen to any address. I'm just kind of, I want to monitor an address that's going on, that I'm listening to, that I'm watching. Don't necessarily need to even own it. So let's say a new transaction. Received Pagoda. And the text, I think we want to change this text to be something a bit more relevant, because we actually have some now really interesting information to be put in here. The web hook body. Let's kind of put that in. And I'm going to just put the formatted payload. I'm going to do the same here as well, so it kind of displays a bit nicer. And actually, even if not a, how do you say, great HTML editor, I'm going to put this in a pre-tag, because then it will look a lot nicer inside the UI when it renders it. So that is what we're doing now. We're sending a mail with context, and that context we're actually getting from Pagoda. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to restart it so it has the latest changes. And now we're going to send a transaction, and we're going to see a mail appear. Look, so we're going to keep that. What I'll do is I'll keep it on the activity tab so we can see the activities here. I'm now going to go over to my Near wallet, and I'm going to send, where should I send it to? I'm going to send it to Misha, my colleague, or her test address. So let's go do that. That's it. I'm going to send one now in the test. So testnet, continue, confirm, and send. So while this is processing, and let's take a look at it on the Explorer to make sure it's gone through happily. That's all being translated. It succeeded, which is obviously super important, and that'll soon get finalized. Now, what's going on in the background is Pagoda is listening to this address that we set up. And when it sees that there's been a successful transaction against that address, it's going to go and send, it's going to receive that alert and send things across. And it's going to send it to this destination that we've got set up. Now, that's all been successful, but we're not seeing anything. Let me just go check the inbox here. These are my messages that I sent before, but I'm not seeing anything come through. I'm not seeing it here either. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can debug. I've been doing this on the testnet, so the testnet may be presenting us with a little bit of a problem, but nonetheless, we'll go through the process. It's kind of helpful anyway. So I'm going to start this direction. I don't see, sorry, we log the result, and I'm not seeing any results logged, and I'm not seeing anything authorized, so it doesn't look like I've received anything against this webhook. So we'll check the ngrok, and this is the inspect endpoint. Just refresh this, and there's everything is empty here as well. So I don't see anything happening there, which is a bit disappointing. If I take a little look, the destination, that looks, I need to go to this window, but that was definitely what I had earlier. So 2CB and then 194. 2CB 194, webhook received, that all looks correct. But what seems to not be working is Pagoda doesn't seem to be noticing that. Doesn't seem to have noticed there's been a transaction. I can see the transaction's been successful, and it is the correct address. If I head over to here, well, it's succeeded, but it's not finalized. Maybe it's something to do with that. Anyway, I don't want to wait for that to get finalized. I think let's go ahead and we can actually mock the transaction. We can mock what Pagoda would do, and you can see it in action, and it's probably quite useful anyway to see that. So we have a little bit of troubleshooting section at the bottom here. So what we can do is we can take this curl request and make it all work nonetheless. So I can take this here. What I need is the ngrok URL. So that is this. I mean, I could actually just post it against the local host, but I think it's kind of useful to at least see the full picture. I'm going to go into Pagoda because we need the bearer token. So there, and this is a sample from a one I did earlier. So let's go get myself a new terminal window. I'm going to just make sure that I paste it correctly. Enter. And wait a second. I'm going to pop over to here. Great. So now we see that the transaction, now we see we've got a response from the server. If we take a look at ngrok, that is what you would expect to see if Pagoda was responding, but we've managed to simulate that anyway. If I now head over to my inbox, I will, brilliant. I have the the information. Now I've made a mess here. I haven't put this, I haven't interpolated the string. So I need to put different quotes in place. So I'm going to do that one more time because it really would be disappointing if that was the way that we left it. I'll put that there. Oh, let's make sure it's completed. It has. Refresh it. And there we go. Much nicer. So that hopefully gives you a little bit of an idea about what you can do in responding to events. As you can imagine, you would most likely format this message neatly. You can sum information up. One of the really interesting other things that we can do that we'll add to this workshop as well, and we have tutorials of it inside the docs, so let me show you. That is the ability to use magic links for login. One of the things that magic links allow you, some of the things that magic allows you to do is it's just a link that someone can click on. It's valid once, it can expire, you can log out. So in many ways, it's a safer way of authenticating users. The problem is getting it to your users securely so that no one else could intercept, see, view, or use that magic link. And because Mailchain has an end-to-end encryption, we're able to do that for you. So we have a couple of interesting tutorials on how to do that, how to listen to notifications, different types of notifications, and actually different protocols. And we have a more advanced section about how to get a little bit lower down inside the SDK and have direct control over an individual address rather than the mailbox. So I hope you found that useful. And I want to spend a little bit of time and answer any questions that you, the audience, or anyone from the community might have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Some questions I had were like regarding like so in the case when you're integrating Mailchain SDK into your dApp, is there a way you can send like mails from like you have to configure the secret for every mail that you want to send from, or how do you make it so that other users can like log in and then send mail from like their
yeah. No, I think I understand what you mean. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. We have a secret recovery phrase which covers your whole Mailchain account. We actually go and derive a whole bunch of different keys, or different keys for each different use case, different protocols, different addresses, different registered addresses. One thing we didn't touch on here is you can register your address again. So if you felt that your key had been compromised for whatever reason of your private messaging key, you can go re-register that. Now, that's relevant because what you can do, you take a look at the advanced sections here, you can send from an address. Now, that sort of sounds like what I just said a second ago, but the difference is instead of using your secret recovery phrase, which actually covers the whole account, instead you send from an individual address. So what you do is you head over to the settings, you pick the messaging key that you want. So you pick the address that you want, you go grab the messaging key, so you need to authenticate to get the private key. And then you can follow this nice simple guide in docs.html mailchain.com/developer/advanced. And you basically drop in the private key here, and then you're able to send messages from that address without using the secret recovery phrase. Something important to note here is you don't have access to the mailbox. So it will not appear in your sent folder. It'll appear in someone's receive folder when they receive it, but it's not in the sent folder. So that's kind of the use case where you have a different way of managing those messages, or perhaps you don't need to save every sent message. It's actually a surprisingly common use case.
And then you mentioned like compatibility with email. Is there a feature where I can like send regular emails to a Mailchain address right now, or like is that on the roadmap?
So it's something that gets asked from time to time. I think we'll look at sort of Web 2 or traditional email integration at some stage. For now, we focus on the Web 3 side of that. The reason for that is there's a high level of security and privacy that we can achieve with blockchain identities because they are rooted in a key pair. With email, that kind of goes away. And while it is acceptable for a lot of use cases, we feel that we can build a product that allows end-to-end encrypted communication so that when I'm messaging you, it is myself and only you that are able to view that information. And I think that's such an important premise to build on top of. We feel quite a lot of the mail, users will start to get quite excited about this, and we'd be really interested to see how this develops.
Can you explain a little bit more about like the proofs and what that looks like? So like right now, like if you have a lens
Mm.
and I have an near account, I can send from my near to your lens, but I can't see like that your lens is associated with a near, like or like so like
Yeah, okay. So what we do, so we register proofs in different ways. For Ethereum addresses, we register them in outside our key registry, and you're able to publicly go and query that key registry. Inside of near, because near addresses allow the keys to be changed, we actually register them inside a contract in near. So you can go take a look at that contract. So if we go over, so you can take a look at that contract, and you can see the proofs and the way that works. It is messaging-keys.mailchain.near. Correct. Yeah. So these are the different addresses that have been registered. You actually saw here that when I registered the Mailchain Bob and the Mailchain Alice accounts just a few moments ago. We can take a look at the transaction. And this is the messaging key that got placed on chain. This is the public messaging key. So when I go, so what happens in the SDK is when you go send a message to alice.bob.near, it goes and uses our resolvers to resolve. It looks across the different protocols that we support, find the messaging key, and pulls it back out. It brings with the messaging key, or it tells the front end where to go look for the proof. The front end then independently looks for the proof for the messaging key. It's able to ensure that the messaging key is valid, either by checking the proof against the address in the case of non-near accounts. In the case of near, it actually goes to the near RPC endpoint, checks the contract that it is the latest. The contract itself, if you take a look at the contract code, only allows that key to be put on chain if it was signed by the address, the holder of the keys of that address. That is how that you can rely that the proofs are correct. Then when a message is sent, it's signed with that messaging key. It has a key exchange using messaging keys. And by following that proof chain, you'll be able to see exactly how that works and where those messages originated from, and it's not been tampered with in any way along the way.
so can you kind of like a little bit about like the use case? So is there anything in like the SDK that like you like didn't cover for other people to reference? And then if you can outline like the use cases, I see like notifications and like mass messaging, but yeah, like is there anything you guys were thinking that devs could
Yeah. So I've lost my my screen's getting away from me there. So inside the docs, I would say with the developer documentation, this is a focus for us at the moment, so we're adding to it all the time. We've got the quick starts that you just saw. We've got some different ways of listening to events. These actually use Ethereum, but it's quite handy to see different types of use cases for notifying the people involved in the transaction rather than watching the address. There's slightly different things there. These were the two different passwordless logins that we have different tutorials for as well. And there's slight nuance in between them because they use different methods to do that. But they're both very useful, and I think actually present a very, very safe way for people to log in, because you get to put away your wallet. When you want to access a website, or a dApp, if you're not transacting with that dApp, you get to put away that wallet, or only bring that wallet out when you're ready to make a transaction. And I think this is something that when people transact often, it obviously builds some confidence, but that confidence can be manipulated. So, we believe that, login doesn't necessarily need the wallet. There are occasions where it does, there are occasions where it doesn't. And this, because we provide a secure authentication, we discovered, and this is something that many people in the community came to us and spoke to us about, is they realized that they could use us for sending passwordless links so that people could securely and safely log in, taking advantage of the end-to-end encryption, so no one can see and view that, and that it has the standard sort of JWT authentication properties. Then I encourage developers to take a look at this section, the advanced section. It's probably where we're going to have the most fun. We have send from address. I will say that we'll be adding from here receive from address. Resolve addresses is kind of useful. So there are situations, we didn't actually touch this, but it's really important to say, you can send a message to an address that's not yet registered. So if Alice.near had not yet registered with Mailchain, you could send a message to that address. And when that address, the owner of that address, registered with Mailchain, they are able to go and choose to receive the messages that are sent before them. So it kind of gives them like an idea of what they've missed. Now, there are some cases where that just doesn't make sense. Maybe the message is time dependent. Maybe it's not relevant for them to receive later in the future, or you don't want to send messages to people that haven't yet registered. This code here helps you identify A, if the address is reachable, and then B, if the address is registered. And you can see that. An important thing to note is we can only provide the end-to-end encryption when the address is registered. So when it's vended, it's what we call when we've provided a messaging key for them. This is where you shouldn't send secrets. Feel free to send any secret you like across the end-to-end encrypted. Only they will be able to receive it, and they'll store it on their device. But you shouldn't be sending secrets when the address is vended. And so this is going to be an interesting section, and you'll see more and more come here. And also as well, like I want to say that we put together this workshop site for you, Near, and in the sense that you are the first workshop. We will have other workshops, and we will be constantly expanding the Near and other workshops so you can see some of the different ways that people message. I think the things that people are speaking to us about at the moment a lot are subscriptions, kind of like mailing out your subscribers to keep them updated, almost like notifications around commerce when someone's purchased an asset. Sure, there's a transaction that proves it, but a nice thank you email, or the information that maybe go alongside that asset, or other information that's important. Things around renewals. If something is about to expire, that's a great time to notify them. Upcoming events, access to things you can, as a creator, communicate with people that own your asset by just mailing them directly, and knowing when someone mails you who that address is and if they own that asset. And of course, people wanting to communicate around something that they own or they would like to own. Receipts for transactions, which I think I mentioned more or less that already, but you kind of get the point. I think in almost every application, there is a use case for messaging. It might not be the thing that distinguishes the application from something else, but it's a really valuable part about keeping your users and community involved and informed.
A couple of use cases as well, specifically for Near, that we've seen be helpful is one of the widgets that I just pasted into the chat that really uses the Mailchain mail to links. So that's a really easy way to put sort of like direct communication into an application. And so that one obviously can pull into any profile page, and that will create a mail to link to that profile so that you can bring in communication that way. Obviously, the other way to do it, as Rob described, is with the SDK. Users can message each other. And what's nice is you still get the confirmation that that message has come through that application because it's using their Mailchain account. But the mail to links are a really easy one. Other ones that we're exploring in the Near ecosystem is things like we're working with the Mint-based team to try and explore using their indexer to create kind of a widget for notifications so that you can kind of toggle on and off the types of notifications that you might want for an NFT marketplace on Near. So a couple of ones like that.
Yeah, I also saw I think this would be something really good for Keepom for sending like custom like onboarding links, but also there is I know like AVB was messing with like sending like notes for like HydroCash and like for people to be able to redeem Near. And this is something like where if I know a wallet, like I would send a private key to in a secure way, or like even for like airdrops.
Yeah, it's a really nice way to do claims. That's one we've seen in other places, because obviously you can message and send those like sort of claim links, so to speak, directly to the wallet addresses. And because they've obviously proved they own that wallet address in Mailchain, that's kind of the proof there for them by clicking on that link. Another one obviously is like, I know FastAuth are sort of building that out for kind of regular email, but that same magic link for login can be used with Mailchain.
Awesome. Any other questions, or I think we're getting around the hour? Do you guys have any alpha on like what other like wallets or name services you guys are planning to integrate, or if you can kind of outline what already exists? You got like the ETH, the EVMs, the lenses, like.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of I'll explain what already exists instead of here. We have when you register in a wallet, you can kind of get an idea of what we've got inside of here. So these are the EVM ones. We've built Near, second protocol. We're super excited to build that. We now are pretty comfortable adding protocols. We have another one that is essentially ready to go. We're working with the team there. So, messaging cross protocol is going to, I think, be a really, really interesting use case. I don't want to preempt anything, but do expect to see more protocols. As for name services, across Ethereum, we support ENS, we support unstoppable domains, free name, we support Coinbase IDs, and the most recent one we added there was Lens. We're looking at other EVMs as well and associated name services. So just keep checking in. You will find different ones. Also as well, if there is something that you would like, we have a feedback.mailchain.com. I hope that's the right address. How we do, brilliant. And you can see different things people requested, vote things up and down. And we're working as well on redoing this register flow so that we can scale out the amount of protocols that we're adding, because this is getting quite complicated quite quickly.
Awesome. Thank you for that very informative workshop. And yeah,
and just last thing I'd love to say, sorry, is if any developers are interested in building and they want some help, or they want it to do something that doesn't do it already, please do get in touch with us. We have a Discord naturally. We can set up a joint Slack channel, or some other office hours or form of communication. And of course Mailchain. So please do just let us know. We're sort of open, and the community's amazing. And we'd love to work with you more.
awesome. And you guys have any like existing or any hackathons running live right now for anyone who's like, I'm gonna make this available real quick?
The DAO Global Hackathon is running at the moment. So if anyone wants to obviously build with Near in that would be amazing. That's really the use cases in that are creating new tools for kind of communication coordination for DAOs. So that one is running at the moment. We've got, I think, 3 bounties open in that hackathon, but we will definitely have some more upcoming. So we'll keep everyone updated on those.
Yeah, I think this is the link here. So let me paste it in. Hopefully I got the right one. I'm not in trouble.
Awesome. Yeah, that may be another use case to experiment with, messaging to messaging for DAO. I don't know how that might work.
Yes.
I feel like it's possible on Near.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the bounties in there is actually around composable widgets, which obviously is very suitable for the blockchain operating system. So yeah, if anyone wants to build in that we would love to see that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming out, and yeah, see you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much.